Good morning and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our daily get-together live here on Facebook every day of the week, 10:30 in the morning, where we examine headlines, comments, topics, suggestions, questions, and all kinds of ideas that we may want to share that help us improve the quality of our lives in Puerto Vallarta as a community of English-speaking locals, folks that live here year-round, folks that are planning to move here shortly, or folks that spend enough time here that they think of Puerto Vallarta as home. To a certain extent. We get together every morning, and it's always great to be here, and it's always particularly wonderful to welcome new people to the broadcast. So if you're new, feel free to let us know by writing the word new on your comment, and that way we'll give you a proper welcome. It is always a pleasure to see familiar faces from all over the globe. Well, that's an exaggeration, but we've had people watching from Switzerland. I remember one time we've had people watching from Thailand and from nearby. Raymond is watching from Conchas Chinas. Good morning. Good morning, Veronica from Toronto, and Paul from South Boston. It's great to see you. It is always great to see you. And of course, it is Friday today. Friday, the weekend begins, Friday, January 29th. And we'll have to see what the weekend has in store for us. As always, if you have any important question or comment that you wish to share with us during the broadcast, it helps a great deal if you add the letter Q at the beginning of your comment. That way we'll be looking out for it. And if we don't get to answering it during the broadcast, we'll gladly address it afterwards. Today we have sobering news. Most of the news that we have today are not good news. They are troubling news. So we are going to go through these news and live with them because they are part of what we're going through. Let's take a look. Well, for starters, it is Friday, and on Fridays, the federal COVID-19 How Are We Doing map gets updated, and this is where we see which states are in the red or in the green or in the orange or in the yellow, so forth and so on. And unfortunately, this week we see that the number of states that are in the red or maximum alert for COVID-19 are on the rise. We have 14 states now that are in the red. This includes Jalisco, and of course, it includes Nayarit as well, as we announced a couple of days ago, or maybe it was even yesterday. Nayarit is starting to take some button-like measures in the city of Tepic and also in the surroundings of San Blas. So fortunately, the measures are not as harsh in the Riviera Nayarit section, Nuevo Vallarta, and so forth and so on. But these are the states that are back in the red as of today. We also read this very thought-provoking article from the New York Times, which indicates that Mexico's death toll becomes the world's third highest, surpassing India's. We know that Brazil is the country with most COVID-19 cases, followed by the United States, and now Mexico has the highest toll, the highest death toll. I'm going to leave the bookmark for this article so that you can read it on your own time if you'd like to do so. The third bad news that we have is that our governor, Enrique Alfaro, announced at the beginning of the week that he's aware of the fact that things are dire and that some relief packages would be announced during the week to help small businesses in the state of Jalisco. We are now on Friday, and Vallarta Independiente was quick to remind us that Governor Alfaro has yet to announce specific information about these packages with financial aid for business people affected by the current restrictions. Hopefully, the governor will take the hint and produce some information that will bring some much needed relief, financial relief for those businesses that have had to close during the coronavirus. But given the last three headlines, this is probably a good time to learn or remember a Mexican or a Spanish expression that is very timely. In English, we say from bad to worse. In Spanish, we say de mal en peor. And if you want to go with the very popular or urban way to say we're going from bad to worse, the expression is de Guatemala a Guatepeor. Of course, this is a wordplay on the country Guatemala. And of course, mala is the end of the word, and that's where the connection comes from. So if you have somebody that is asking you, how are you doing or how are things going, you can answer de mal en peor, you can answer de Guatemala a Guatepeor, or you can think that they'll hopefully get better as time goes by. Back to the headlines, let me tell you that Noticias Bebé reminds us, excuse me, that there are no alternative treatments for COVID-19. There is an increase of cases here in Puerto Vallarta. There's an increase of cases in the state of Jalisco. And of course, people may be thinking of taking alternative medications to counteract the disease. And this is just a reminder that there is no such thing. The article goes ahead and recommends certain substances and medicinal plants and so forth and so on that some people may suggest are helpful to counteract the effects of COVID-19, but there is no such there's no such treatment, in case you read something to that effect. Speaking of treatments, I have two English articles about Johnson & Johnson's new one-dose vaccine, one-dose shot. It prevents COVID, but it is less efficient than other vaccines. Nonetheless, this might be a relief available in situations where a double vaccination is not available or possible. So I will leave you with two articles related to this new vaccine in case you want to read it. This one, the first one comes from Huffington Post, and this one comes from Vox. Of course, we love the Vox explanatory articles. So hopefully we'll get something good out of that. More COVID news. There is now indication that an anal probe is a more efficient way to diagnose, to detect rather, COVID-19. This is something that has been happening in China, where China is implementing a rectal probe to identify positive cases. And in case you haven't heard of this, there might be more buzz about this in the future. So I do have an article in English. This comes from The Guardian that we can hopefully read and get a better sense as to what is going on with this new treatment. I also am happy to report that Mexico President Andrés Manuel López Obrador continues to recover from COVID-19. He was diagnosed 5 days ago, and Hugo López-Gatell has indicated that he is practically asymptomatic, has been attending to government businesses, and he has been in a good in good humor. The quote is, "In general, his health is good. He is at ease. He is in good humor and eager to go back to his everyday activities." There are indications, apparently, on social media, people that like to move and stir and shake things, that were saying that our president had suffered some kind of neurological problem that had caused paralysis in part of his body. That is not the case. The condition that he's in continues to improve day after day. Before we move on to the lighter articles I have ready for you today, let me take a quick look at your comments to see if I find any cues in your comments. Let's see. Na 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 na. No cues. No cues, but there's some. Oh no, I was about to make the same mistake, Margaret. I know that you're from New Westminster, and that doesn't mean that you are new to the broadcast. The other day I gave you a welcome, not realizing that that was the name of your town. But I see that Kyle Fitzgerald is new, and Kyle just moved to Versailles. Yay! One of us. Thank you very much, Kyle. I don't live in Versailles, but I live one block away. You have just moved to a wonderful neighborhood. Our broadcast, Coffee and Headlines, produces a great map called Versailles for Foodies, which you will want to know about because it lists, I think it's 28 or 29 awesome restaurants that you can enjoy in Versailles that we've gone to, and you're going to see links for this in the near future. The map has been available only to supporting members here at Coffee and Headlines, but it becomes available to the general public on Monday. But for the time being, welcome to Coffee and Headlines, Kyle. Have a great time here. Let's see. Let's see. I don't see any. Oh, no, that's not a cue. Let me see. No cues. So we can continue moving on now with the weather. It is Friday, and we have Friday weather today. It is 27 degrees, feels like 27, so it is exactly what it is. And humidity is a low 38%. We have never registered 38% humidity here at Coffee and Headlines. It's nice to see that it's not going to be a humid day, particularly because I'm going to be out and about doing walking tours today. The weather is 80 degrees Fahrenheit, in case you're still reading Fahrenheit weather. And the forecast for today is clear through the day with a high temperature of 31, low temperature 19. Tomorrow we can expect a clear day. It's going to be clear through the day. High temperature 30, low temperature 17. And Sunday, the same thing. We can expect a clear day. High temperature of 29, low temperature 18. So clearly we are going to have a clear and wonderful weekend. That is, of course, great news to have. Moving right along with our headlines, a viewer kindly pointed me out to the fact that local singer Dwight Blake is opening his own restaurant. We know that Dwight Blake has been doing, I believe it's Jamaican food to go. I'm not entirely sure. But he is taking over the spot where Vista Grill used to be up in Alta Vista. And his new restaurant is going to be called Panorama Gastronomico, I think. And he is opening the restaurant on Valentine's Day. So we wish him a lot of good luck with this new endeavor. A new restaurant to enjoy here in town is always good news for me, and I'm sure it is always good news for others. Let me see. Oh, this is one of those unfortunate bits of news. A Mexican television host is now being criticized on both sides of the border for traveling to Florida to get the COVID vaccine. All these people that manage to use their influences one way or another to get the vaccine don't really have to flaunt it on social media. I don't understand why they would have, why they would want to do that. But Juan Jose Origel, who has hosted shows such as Con Permiso TV and La Oreja, posted this photograph that says, "I am now vaccinated. Thank you, USA. What a shame that my country did not give me that sense of security. Well, the country is in the process of giving that sense of security to all Mexicans and people that live in our country. So is the United States. So this guy got bombarded because there are people in Florida that are still waiting to get their vaccine, and of course they're like trying to understand, who the fuck are you and why did you get the vaccine before we did, and on Mexico's side, he also got plastered with colorful commentary that is probably not a good thing. And speaking of mentioning jokes and things that are questionably appropriate online here in Coffee and Headlines, we have seen how sometimes you post something that you think is funny and that ends up not being very funny to all or to some. I want to tell you the case of a Mexican cardiologist who, in the process of finding out that our president, AMLO, had COVID 19, he decided to post something on Twitter to the effect that, well, if he has COVID 19, we should give him this cocktail that will provoke him thrombosis, and that way we can free ourselves from his morning press conferences for quite some time. The nice, good doctor called Diego Araiza claimed that this was just a joke, but of course, this was not funny to many people, and he had a job at a hospital. He even included the actual recipe, the cocktail that he thought would be good for our president to, to disappear. So he lost his tenure at the National Institute of Cardiology, where he is no longer going to be working. He was also the social media ambassador for the European Society of Cardiology. They said, no, thank you. We don't want you here. We don't want you sharing that kind of information. So bye-bye. Actually, the European Society said, we don't endorse the unfortunate personal post by one of its social media ambassadors, Diego Araiza. Diego Araiza has publicly apologized and will no longer be an ambassador for the society, and as his message infringed ESC social media guidelines. How sad to be a reputable physician and to make a joke that was not appropriate and to lose your professional credibility. Let me take a quick look at your comments, if I may, before we share the final headline that I have to share with you. Let's take a quick look. Do I see any cues? Dina Black asks, I'm a little late. Any news that they will open stores for over 60? The schedule of the restriction period is supposed to end on the last day of this month, Dina. There are grumblings that it will be extended. We don't know as a fact that this will be the case. You should be rejoiced and happy to learn that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of stores in Puerto Vallarta and surrounding areas that will welcome you even if you are over 60. So this is good news. Let me see if I see any other cues. Dina says, I had a cue and I just read it. Thank you very much. Let's see. I see another cue. William asks, was it my imagination or did it rain last night? I personally couldn't tell you. I was asleep, but if somebody else reported rain, it would be great to hear. Let's see what else we have. This is all the cues. So let me show you the last headline that I want to share with you. And this comes from our friends at Huffington Post. Common mental health advice we should actually ignore right now. What a great twist on this article. I've glanced through it, and this article takes certain guidelines or advice that we usually find as useful during difficult times and flips it around and and tells us why we shouldn't be paying attention to those things right now. For example, stay off social media is something that would make sense to many, but the article reminds us that social media may be the only lifeline some people have to connect with the world outside. Interesting thought. The article also talks about focusing on the positive, which is something that we usually recommend, but it is also, it says there is a time and place for this, but it is essential to acknowledge the reality of your situation, the difficult feelings you feel, and respect that those feelings are there. So the article goes on and on and on and twists around in a beautiful, very useful way all these notions that we usually believe are possible or we should be following, and it gives us alternative choices to read. Again, this is in English. I think you will enjoy it quite very much. One final look. I'm looking for cues. Thank you, Jody. Do you recommend any app or tips for expats wanting to learn Spanish? I've heard of an app called Duolingo that some friends of mine are using. Don't laugh, Jody, but sometimes watching Spanish television series on Netflix with English subtitles on is another good way to just listen to it. I will suggest, though, that you focus on series that are filmed or that feature people speaking Mexican Spanish, because the accent might throw you off if you go with a South American produced series. And let's see. I don't see any other cues. So this brings us to the end of our broadcast. As always, it is a pleasure to get together with you. And it is a pleasure to read your comments and hopefully, oh, that's a great comment. Thank you very much, Claude. Listening to Spanish music helps a lot. It is always great. Gigi comments, my husband learned it watching telenovelas. That's not the first time that I've heard that. More comments for Duolingo. Linda comments that Duolingo doesn't teach a Mexican Spanish, but still, take a look at it. I don't know if it costs any money or not, but I've just heard it mentioned a lot. For that matter, I will throw in my 2 cents, and if the best thing you can do is find people to practice the language with. There are folks out there that are teaching Spanish. I don't have any specific connections to anyone, but you may want to consider that. Thank you very much for watching. It is always a pleasure to get together with you every morning, and it is always a pleasure to read your questions and comments. If you found something useful here, if you laughed, if you got a good tip or a good idea or were otherwise inspired, please remember that Coffee and Headlines is a community-supported project. It's made possible by people like you. Thank you very much. Have a great beginning of a weekend, and I'll see you again soon.